In 1839, when Herman Melville of New York City was not quite 20 years old, he signed aboard a merchant ship, and thereafter he joined the crew of an Australian whaling ship. In 1850, outside the Berkshire village of Pittsfield, Massachusetts, Melville bought 160 acres of land. He called his farm Arrowhead. Lesley Herzberg of Pittsfield is executive director of the Berkshire Historical Society, housed at Arrowhead.
My name is Lesley Herzberg.
And spell it?
It's Lesley. Herzberg is Herzberg.
And what's your hometown? Where do you live?
I live here in Pittsfield.
And all your life you lived here? Or?
No, I've been here about 10 years.
Where'd you come from?
I'm originally from New Hampshire, so I am a New Englander. Been here about 10 years now.
Right, tell me where we are right now. Where is this place?
So right now we are in Herman Melville's study, upstairs study at Arrowhead in Pittsfield, Massachusetts. He lived in this house from 1850 to 1863, and this is the room where he wrote Moby Dick.
He wrote Moby Dick in this room, and he said it was the winter of 1850 when he was here.
Right, and he would get up in the morning. He said he would get up about 8 o'clock. He would go out to the barn and feed his horse and his cow. And then he would have his breakfast. And then he would come up here. And he would really expect not to be disturbed for the entirety of the day. His wife or one of his sisters or their cook would often bring up a tray, leave it at the door, and he would take it when he wanted it. He wouldn't eat on the same surface that he was writing, so he did have a separate table where he would eat. So there is a breakfast tray in the corner of the room. And he would really work. He would work for most of the day, even in a house that was quite chaotic with his mother, his wife, his 4 children, his sisters. He was up here writing. And so he did accomplish, and he did finish Moby Dick within the winter between 1850 and 1851. And so he wrote a lot during that time because it was published in October of 1851. Now, it's a bit of a dreary day today, but normally you can see from Melville's desk the view of Mount Greylock, which Melville thought, especially with the snow cover in the winter, looked like the back of a sperm whale reaching above the waves. It wasn't just that particular image that inspired his story, though. Melville had been aboard a whaler himself as a younger man. Between 1839 and 1844, he set sail aboard the Acushnet, and then he was aboard the Lucy Ann in the South Seas on a whaler. So his experiences there, as well as all these international ports that he was at in Hawaii, in Tahiti, really gave him a lot of fodder for the personalities and these characters that came out in Moby Dick. So people like Ishmael and, he is basing them on probably an amalgam of real people that he had met. Also in the back of his mind was an old New England story, which was the wreck of the whale ship Essex in 1820. So this would have happened when Melville was just 1 year old, but it certainly kind of resonated in the minds of New Englanders. And this is a whale ship that had been completely destroyed by a whale. And there were only a few survivors. And Melville actually gets to meet the captain of that whale ship. His father-in-law takes him to meet the captain of the Essex, who lives out on Nantucket. And Melville, gets to talk to him about that experience. So that certainly played into Moby Dick as well.
Lesley, how long have you been working here in Arrowhead?
So I actually haven't even been here for a year. My anniversary will be in April, but I'm not new to the Berkshires, and I'm not new to this story. I've been here about 10 years total. I came here to work at Hancock Shaker Village as the curator there, which actually has a great Melville connection as well. In August of 1851, Hawthorne and Melville actually have a foot race around the roundstone barn at Hancock when they are visiting the Shakers. So that's kind of a fun story and a way that they spent time here and went on outings and explored the Berkshires.
And what brought you to Arrowhead?
Well, I've always had an interest in history. I've worked at a variety of museums, but this museum itself as well as being obviously where Melville wrote Moby Dick and he lived here, it's also the Berkshire Historical Society. So we really encompass the history of the Berkshires. And not a lot of people know that. They know of Arrowhead, but they don't know that the Berkshire Historical Society runs it. So that's an important piece of our mission and our outreach, especially to our local population, to teach people about our local history. And we do outreach in the local schools, we do programs, we do lots of events during the year that don't just center on Melville, but do center on our local Berkshire County history.
Right, let's say there is, at the Berkshire Museum over there in Pittsfield, there is this mural of, it looks like it could be a scene from Moby Dick.
I've seen it many times hanging above their stairwell, along with a whale jawbone. Yeah, and it shows the harpooners dismantling a whale carcass.
Tell me your name.
My name is Jason Vivori. I am the Collections Experience Manager here at the Berkshire Museum.
Tell me about the painting. Who made it, when it was made, what does it depict?
Yes, so this is a painting called Stripping the Whale. It's actually not a painting, it's a pastel piece. It was made by an artist by the name of Mark Milloff. Mark Milloff is local, relatively local. He was in Stockbridge, I believe, when he made that piece. And I believe he still teaches at the Rhode Island School of Design. Not 100% on the exact name. But anyways, he made that piece in the mid-'80s, I believe in 1985, thereabouts. Or that's when it came to the museum anyways. Mark was influenced by Melville's Moby Dick when he made this piece, and you can see that throughout the piece, some of the details regarding this sort of spearing and fishing sort of motif. Other interesting facts about this piece actually are, if you look at the corners of the pieces, you'll see there's an image. Those images, those plaster faces, are actually the artist. That's Mark Milloff's face. He added himself in there.
I have a sort of sea feeling here in the country, now that the ground is covered with snow. I look out of my window in the morning when I rise as I would out of a porthole of a ship in the Atlantic. My room seems a ship's cabin, and at nights when I wake up and hear the wind shrieking, I almost fancy there is too much sail in the house, and I had better go on the roof and rig in the chimney. He worked at this table. He didn't like the confines of a desk. He liked this open kind of, it's almost a dining table. And what Melville did, and you can see a sample of his writing here, this is actually a letter written here in 1862. Melville does not use punctuation in his writing. And what would happen was, Melville had 2 illnesses as a child that left him with very poor eyesight. And so what would happen is he would write, he would leave out all punctuation, and he had 2 copyists. And the copyists were his wife, Lizzie, and his sister, Augusta, who both lived here at Arrowhead with him. So he would hand over his writing to them. They would make a clean copy for editors and publishers. And Melville would then come back and fill in the punctuation afterwards. So that was really his process of writing. And his wife comments on it on letters to people that she was corresponding with. She would apologize ahead of time that say, I'm very sorry if I leave out punctuation. I'm used to Herman coming and filling it in later.
And now, abating in his flurry, the whale once more rolled out into view, surging from side to side, spasmodically dilating and contracting his spout hole, with sharp, crackling, agonized respirations.
The red tide now poured down from all sides of the monster like brooks down a hill. His tormented body rolled not in brine but in blood, which bubbled and seethed for furlongs behind in their wake. The slanting sun playing upon this crimson pond in the sea sent back its reflection into every face, so that they all glowed to each other like red men.
And the women of New Bedford, they bloom like their own red roses, but roses only bloom in summer, whereas the fine carnation of their cheeks is perennial as sunlight in the seventh heavens.
Elsewhere match that bloom of theirs ye cannot. save in Salem, where they tell me the young girls breathe such musk, their sailors' sweethearts smell them miles offshore, as though they were drawing nigh the odorous Moluccas instead of the puritanic sands.
The whaling, what was, it wasn't for food.
Well, the main reason that they were, hunting whales was for their oil, and that lit lamps, and that was the main reason. However, there were a lot of other uses for whale products, such as the baleen in their mouths were used as corsets. They were the anchors of the women's corsets, so those were very much in demand as well.
So whales were slaughtered en masse so that women could appear more slender. Is that a correct assessment?
Oh, that's one of the reasons, yeah.